from cast, sound studies. I think Said, you offered something on smell or touch? Smell and touch, right? You know, so there are a range of, and of course electives on creative writing as well. So there's a range of electives also that we offer. Keep a watch out for them. This, you know, these don't come to you via your the painstaking process of reading and writing again and again, getting feedback, reworking it, and so it's the practice and the actual process of writing again and again, which actually takes you to, you know, like a place of understanding writing better, understanding a text better, right? So we always tell students that, and this is where students also have struggled the most, also because nothing in our schooling has taught us that writing is a process. It's not a final product ki, you know, like an examination answer or an examination, final examination paper that you give, which is a final thing. But writing here is a product. You write a first draft, you see what has changed in the second draft, you see what has changed in the third draft, right? And that precisely is also the beauty of that. It's also very tiresome. Students find the course, sometimes they do, yeah, because it means that this is not simply, I'm not going to come prepared with a lecture and that's it, but it actually means students are going to be far more involved than you might be, let's say, in a lecture based class, right? You have to be, you have to write, maybe we'll all write in class, maybe we all read in class, maybe we all work in groups, then maybe we all edit something together. So this is what we call and what is called a far more student or learner centric approach, where the learners, the students, are far more at the center than, let's say, this one way, here's the lecture, here's what I have to say, maybe a few questions here and there and class is over, right? That doesn't work, that's not how our pedagogy works, right? So that is also means it puts a lot of onus on students to be active, proactive about their own learning. You not only learn from us, but you will learn from each other as you all write and we all review each other's work through peer review, right? So these are some of the important sort of markers of how our pedagogy differs from a regular lecture-based kind of pedagogy that you might otherwise be used to or might be happening in other classes as well, right? Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I've already talked a lot, and I'm going to, invite my colleagues to also come and quickly introduce themselves. Also, if I've missed something, feel free to chip in, and if there's something that you need to say about writing, our pedagogy, our center, and then of course we'll have Srishti hand the floor to Srishti. Okay, great, thank you. So, I mean, if you want to introduce yourselves from there or come here. By the way, just quickly, my training is, I'm trained as an anthropologist, so my work has been, my research has been in the city of Pune. I've worked on how urban space shapes young men's sense of themselves as men. So I've worked on urban space and masculinity. That's my research area. But now I'm also interested in writing pedagogies and thinking of what we call a pedagogy of care, but from a very critical perspective. So that's broadly what I work on. But yeah, others?
Hi, I'm Hello, I'm Shivani Kapoor. This semester I'm teaching in the School of Art and Architecture. I'm a political scientist by training, and my work largely revolves around the question of caste and leather industry and sensory experience of working with leather in the northern part of India. And yeah, that's about it. I hope I get to see some of you, teach some of you in the coming semesters at least. Yeah, welcome to the university.
I think Shivani and Srishti are teaching in the School of Arts and Architecture. Do we have any JSA students here?
Hi, I'm Srishti, and yeah, as Professor Madhura mentioned, this semester I'm teaching in the School of Arts and Aesthetics. No, sorry, Arts and Architecture. And my background is in international politics. I have recently submitted my PhD dissertation, and I look at questions of home, border, and I'm also very interested in literature. So I look at literature to, yeah, think about these concepts which are so central to international politics. And I'll hand over the mic.
Hi, I'm Shubhoshri. A very warm welcome to the CWS. I studied comparative literature in my graduation years and then moved on to work around sound and listening. And this semester, I'm teaching at the Jindal School of International Affairs, both at the master's and the graduation levels. And the whole of one of my classes is here. So I look forward to interacting with you and welcome again.
I am Mohammed Saeed. I am trained in sociology, and my work is on urban space, congestion, sensorium, specifically the relationship between body and the city. And I am teaching MA that is MA Public Policy, and MA DLB, the two courses.
Hi, I'm Nupur Samuel, and this semester I'm teaching the MA class at what is this business JS. No, no. JSGP.
MA in Public Policy.
MA in Public Policy and Economics, and I'm also teaching a PhD cohort. Again, what Madhura mentioned, ideas about academic writing and how to, make other people work for you, basically. Because we are not only sharing our own ideas, but we are also kind of going back and saying, what did other people say, and how could we. And I'm an English language teacher educator by training. My PhD is in the assessment of writing. And currently, I'm interested in the area of inclusive education, gender sensitization in higher education. And these interests, especially in gender, I developed while I was at Jindal. Before that, I was teaching at Ambedkar University. So if you are interested in kind of bringing your personal in the academic writing sphere and are wondering how to convert the personal into an academic kind of topic, I'll be happy to listen to you and discuss some of these things with you. So welcome again to Jindal and to the CWS. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pankaj. Before we hear more about me, if we could get a show of hands of folks who are from each different school, so that we know who is everybody. Let's have a show of hands of everybody from JSIA. Okay, all right. Everybody from JSGP. Okay, there's a few. Excellent. JSAA. JSAA. All right. No one from JSAA? We don't even know what AA means. We both art and whatever. Art and so not art. Architecture. No, so it's a joke. We do know. We do know it. It's made up.
Which JSs are there?
All right, let's show hands from JSLH. Okay, so few of you. Excellent, all right. Any school that we missed so far? What about JSB? Law school, JGL's law school, right? So that's the thing we hear so much about, law school. All right, JGLS. So you've divided yourself in two parts. JSBF. Okay, business and finance, right? Excellent, wonderful. Banking and finance, as we said, we don't know what. At least we get the alphabets right. So, we don't say that A means something else. Yeah, we get the alphabet right. All right, that's excellent. My name, as I said, my name is not important. I teach creative writing, and I already said the name, so it's Pankaj Chawla, as well as film, screenwriting, electives. So welcome to Jindal. Welcome to just this new building and this new campus. Hopefully, your experience here has been positive so far in terms of getting used to the campus and everything. We're super excited to have you all here. One thing I'll quickly say in terms of what we do here, I have a lot of secrets about writing, and I will reveal these to you gradually if you're in my courses. Okay. No, not quite, not quite. If you're following along, guys, if you're following along, I will quickly tell you, there are no secrets in writing. Zero secrets. Okay? Writing is not about this one thing that you do and you get everything right. No. There's all these tedious and involved and engaged and troubling and really disturbing kind of things that you do. It's behavior. It's like these hundreds of things that you learn to do. The way you read, the way you sort of communicate, the way you talk, all of those things feed into writing. So it's a fundamental way in which you look at the world and respond to the world, right? So there are no secrets. If you hear about whether it's online solutions or whatever, there's no fast way or quick way to learn how to write well, right? It's a process, as Madhura was mentioning earlier. It's a journey that you go through, and hopefully I will interact with you during this journey, and we're glad to have you here. Okay, thank you. Is that it?
Just as Shachi is there, so I'll just pass the. Yeah. Also, how many of you are getting lost every day finding your classrooms? A show of hands for that. It doesn't get better. We all have been here for 5 years. We get lost every day, so it's not going to get better. Yes, Shachi.
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Shachi. I am teaching this semester at the MAPP, MA Eco, and with the Baga students. And I have my training in sociology. I have studied at the Delhi School of Economics. My MPhil was in nationalism and something to do with consumption. You can know more about it maybe when we interact. Okay, welcome, and yeah, that's all.
So, without any further ado, I'm going to hand the floor to Srishti. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let us know if we need to.
Yeah. What do I do with this?
You can just clip it onto your thing and hold that other thing in your hand.
Right. All right. Hi everyone. So I've actually taught in this very room before. I was teaching in the last semester, but I've never seen this room as populated as it is today. So let's see how this exercise goes. And so I'll just pull up the document. Right. One of the things that you'll quickly realize as you go along with us on this journey of writing and reading is that no CWS class or no CWS workshop is complete without a writing exercise. So these writing exercises are like pretty much the core of how we make you understand writing, or how we make you get more, how we just get you more involved in this process of reading and writing. And today, while we are not actually going to be reading or writing an academic text, via this exercise, it's a very brief, small exercise. And what I want to do with this exercise is just, as we go along it, I'll probably highlight some of the themes that you'll encounter as you go through your courses, as you go through this process of reading and writing. And I'll sort of try to highlight what exactly you'll be doing in the rest of the semester. So before we actually dive in, just a few words on what I want to do with this exercise, or just to give you a sense of where we want to go with this. So you've already heard that reading and writing involve something known as a process. There are secrets, no secrets. Yeah, there's all these words have already come up into this space time. So I want to add another word to it, and that word is relation. And as Professor Madhura was just talking about how college writing and college reading suddenly requires us to grapple with these very dense texts, very dense ideas, very dense arguments, even very dense words that we haven't probably heard before. And that requires us to sort of respond to these texts and ideas differently. And that is the idea that I want to pitch today, that equipping yourself to deal with these texts also requires us to think about texts a little differently, and to come into a sort of a different sort of relation with texts, different from what we have probably learnt in school so far. So once again, as Professor Madhura was has already talked about a little, go back to how you were responding to texts in school, and how you were taught to respond to texts in school. So texts were largely sources of, just these passive surfaces, words on paper, and we were required to sort of extract information from these words, passive words written on paper, and just reproduce them on another piece of paper, which we were then graded on. And that was largely it. But developing a different form of relation with text requires us to think of texts more like active, just more like active people, let's say, just to give you an example here. Why don't we think about texts as people that we can interact with, people that we can ask questions of, people that we can have more meaningful conversations with, and people that we can mix with to create original ideas, original understandings, original perspectives, original arguments, what have you. These are again words that you will repeatedly hear over and over now that you're in college. Produce an original argument. Now what's an original argument? Very simply, all you need to do is, come into a relation with the text, engage with the text, mix yourself with the text. So don't just, don't just scan the text for pointers as to, okay, what were the reasons, causes behind World War II, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll leave that mode behind, and we'll sort of get into the mode where we are looking at the text and simply start, engaging with it, asking questions of it, asking what it can tell us about, all different, asking what it can give us, what sort of understandings can it provide us with about the world at large, about different sorts of phenomenon, different sorts of ideas, processes, whatever it is that we're working on. So without further ado, let's actually dive into the activity. And what I'm first going to ask you to do is just read this. It's a brief, random excerpt, seemingly random excerpt that I've picked out here. And just very quickly read this text. Let's take a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back, and we'll execute this exercise. Yeah, is this visible? Sure. Right. Okay. So yeah, just if I hope it's visible to everyone. Yeah. All right.
Look at this.
Is that better? Yeah. Great. All right. Yeah, clear, I guess. Clear.
Cancel.
All right. The screen is yours. Sure. Can I have a volunteer? Can you please read
A
it out?
former member of a crime gang has become an internet sensation after his musical performances in the hospital he works at went viral. Enrique Rodriguez, 28, who is currently working as a phlebotomist at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, has gained quite some popularity on social media after several videos of him singing to patients caught the attention of netizens. According to a Daily Mail report, Rodriguez, who belonged to a New Jersey gang, has become a musical star after he posted videos of him playing the piano for critically ill patients in the hospital's intensive care unit on his TikTok account. Rodriguez left crying to help people in need. I found God at an extremely troubling period in my life, and He showed Himself to me when I needed Him most, he told the news website. I know that God wanted me to care for people just as He cared for me, and the hospital was the perfect place to do that. Rodriguez, who has been working with the hospital for the past 9 years, is a self-taught musician.
Thank you. You are? Your name is?
Ishita.
Thank you, Ishita. Wonderful. All right. So we've just encountered this random text. And imagine yourself, you're just going down the street and you encounter this random person, or you're maybe sitting in a bus and there's a random person next to you. You're bored and you want to strike up a conversation. What's the first thing that you will do in order to get the conversation started? Yes? Ask their name. Ask questions, right? That's how you get a conversation going. You start asking questions. So I'm going to ask this text and ask you to answer on behalf of the text, because we're all coming in relation with this text together. What are you? What are you? What do we think this text is? Yes? A report of sorts. What kind of report? Can we be a little more precise? Yeah?
Sort of like a news report.
A news report. So how do we figure that it's a news report? How did we arrive at that?
Because it gives information about events that have occurred.
Okay, gives information. Yes, Ishita?
Because there's a phrase that clearly states that he told the news website.
He told the news website, and
Same, it is cited that according to Daily Mail report. Daily Mail.
okay, according to Daily Mail report. So, what do you think this piece is? The Daily Mail report? No. What's happening with the Daily Mail report? Citing, exactly. So here is one of the key things that you're actually going to be dealing with in your courses. How to use other sources in your own writing. How to bring other voices in your own writing. And this is how really a newspaper report does it. They just write it. They begin with a very, very clear-cut way of saying, yeah, all right, at this moment I'm taking another report and I'm using it to make my point. Academic writing has its own conventions with respect to citation and with respect to providing evidence that, of course, you'll be learning as you go along. But this is one of the key things that you will be exposed to. Other than that, I want to go back to what you said, that there's a lot of information here. There's information in pretty much every text. So what gave you the idea that this information is a newspaper report? And this is again an open question, not just for you, but what about the information suggests that this is a newspaper report? Yeah. Just the required details. Okay, and?
So it's just stating the facts, like providing information, no analysis, no.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. So look at this statement. Enrique Rodriguez, 28, currently working as a phlebotomist, etc., etc., etc. All the basic necessary details, and presented in a very factual manner. No emotions, no extra unnecessary, baggage is brought to this piece of news. It's just a very indifferent sort of like neutral perspective, neutral report on this is what's going on. So here's another thing that I want to pitch. That I mean, we didn't really have anything outside of this text at the moment. We just used whatever is present in the text to make sense of the text. And this is something that you again will be dealing with very soon as you start your courses, writing courses right away in the first couple of weeks. We call it close reading. And close reading is simply, actually getting involved with the text very deeply, asking questions of it, looking at what is present in the text, but also very importantly, not just what is there, but also how is it presented. What is there is of course something that we have to grapple with, but it's entirely, it's ridiculously important at this point to start getting used to the idea that we also have to pay attention to how it is present, how it is presented.
Sorry, Srishti, can I just
Yeah.
Those of you who are reading, please make sure there is chai and samosa and some snacks. Please do pick it up on the way. Yes.
All right. So this is again, close reading means you just focus, you put the text under a microscope, look at it very intensively, pay attention to the details present inside the text, and make sense of it. Make sense of it in a make sense of it in a way that you actually are engaging with it, in a way that there is interaction between you and the text. So now we come to the interaction bit, and now is the fun bit, the writing bit. And I just want us to go through this very, quick writing exercise today. What I'm going to ask you to do is translate this bit. This is a news item. There are a bunch of details, there's a bunch of information present here. I'm going to ask you to translate this news item into a first person account. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhabit Rodriguez. You're going to become Rodriguez for the next 10 minutes. And you'll just write a brief 100, 150 words first person account of the story presented in the newspaper item. So this means that you're going to use information present in the text. So don't use information that is not there. Use information that is already here. Also don't change any of the information here. So if it says Enriquez 28, you can't simply write Enriquez 30. So that means you're going to be very true to the information that is present in the text. And you don't have to use all of the details here. You can just pick and choose. You can work with a couple of details. You can use maybe 2 to 3 pieces of information. And here's the fun bit. Now you're going to try and connect these details that you pick in a way that you tell a story. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just take a picture of it and can I get back to you because I have class at 4? And if you're able to do it, then I will ask you for suggestions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take couple of details maybe and tell a compelling story in first person. So you're Rodriguez, and you're going to talk about whatever happened with you. Maybe you can talk about how you got to being a musician. You can use the fact that now you're a religious person. You can use the fact that you used to be a crime gang member. That's up for grabs. I mean, there's plenty of information in the news item to go around with. And you can choose whatever form you want to present the story in. So it doesn't really have to be, like a short story. You can write a letter in Rodriguez's voice. You can, write a diary entry in Rodriguez's voice. You can even make a post on his Instagram page. Just make sure that the way you present the information is suggestive of what you're writing. So I don't have to rely on extra textual information to make sense of what you've written. But if you've written an Instagram post, make sure that it is written in a way that I can tell already that this is an Instagram post. So does that make sense? Are the rules clear? Guidelines clear? All right. So yeah, there were a couple of questions. Yeah. Sorry, you had a question?
Yeah. So when we're writing the story, so do we have to do it from the point of view that we were like an article is published about us and then we're writing about?
You can also use that fact. I mean, it's up to you. The only thing to remember is that you are Rodriguez. You're writing in a first person, you're writing a first person account. You're writing with the I pronoun, and you're, choosing to tell a story based on some of these details. All right, so let's take like maybe 10 minutes. Do you know how to split the screen? So, can you, Oh, wonderful. Oh.
Just a second, don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that works. Thank you. Does that work for everyone? All right.
Excellent, thank you.
So yeah, let's take about 10 minutes and then we'll come back.
But since I started working at the hospital, seeing the patient smile is like seeing you showing me the way. I had posted my music at Robert Wood Johnson on TikTok, and they even covered that in the article. You showed yourself to me when I needed you most, and I am thankful to you for making me realize that I was meant to care and to help.
All right, thank you. That was wonderful. So, do you want to talk a little about the process that the mental process that went on into the making of your piece?
Yeah, so I saw that one thing that was huge in the article was him being a follower of God.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why I decided to address it to God.
Uh-huh.
And the next thing is that uh, I think it shows that the article shows that the person is a self-taught musician, right? And he taught himself that so he could help people.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I decided to cover how God helped him learn to care.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, so here's, just to sort of engage with your process a little, you sort of picked out what you thought was the biggest detail here, the most important, most significant detail, and then you tried to contextualize the rest of the content in light of that detail, right? So you picked out the idea that God seems to be at play here big time, and you then worked your way around this idea and pitched the story under the umbrella of how he became a religious person now, and how he is a religious person. So yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things again that I'd like to highlight in terms of what your piece is doing is also how it's sort of changing the tone of the text or the tone of the information being presented, right? So we sort of discussed earlier that here it's all very bland. It's almost like a listing of information. This happened, that happened, etc., etc. And there's just like an onslaught of information, an onslaught of details without any emotional currency, without any emotional value or any other thing working here. But the moment you translated it into Rodriguez's voice, the moment you inhabit Rodriguez's voice, automatically some bit of emotional content comes into the picture, right? And I'm sure all of you who sort of worked with this idea here of translating this piece into a different voice must have realized that, okay, now you are sort of working with a different emotion. You are in the first place working with an emotion because you are Rodriguez, so you can't really separate yourself and be indifferent to any of the details present here. But also there's a greater investment. So the point that I want to highlight here is that the moment you write in a different voice and in a different form, the same information takes on a very different value. The value of the information changes, and how the reader of your text will respond to this information also changes now. So as a reader of this newspaper item, I will probably read this piece and be like, oh, okay, sure, good for him, right? But when I heard your piece and I heard the sort of investment that you brought, that you gave, that you sort of brought to the table in terms of Rodriguez's voice and tone, I'm automatically more tuned in to what you just said. I'm more inclined to hear Rodriguez's story. I'm more inclined to follow Rodriguez's story. So again, just to reiterate, the moment you translate something into a different voice, you also translate the same information takes on a different color, takes on a different value. And this is a very important thing that we also work with as academic writers. We will be working with a lot of voices, a lot of text, and we will be superimposing text on top of each other. We will be juxtaposing text along with each other. And the information that we use from each of these texts, the way we bring them together into our writing will add a sort of different value, bring a different value to this same information. And this is how you also become an original writer. This is the sort of original contribution that is expected of you. Where is this originality to be located? Precisely in the way that you sort of transpose all of this information in a different light, bring it into a different context, work with it, engage with it, right? Okay, do we have time for another piece or? Okay.
Just see how, I think it'll be just interesting to see.
Yeah, just, yeah, how different. So, anyone else, any other volunteer would like to take a stab? Yeah, yes, please.
I addressed my diary.
Uh-huh.
I said, Dear Diary, while working at the hospital, I decided to play the piano for the patients to make their day brighter and posted the video of the same on my social media page. Today, I came to know that I've become an internet sensation as the videos went viral. Few years after leaving the GAN, at 28, I realized how happy it makes me to see others smile.
Thank you, wonderful. So what was the most important detail for you here?
The fact that he went from a gang member to like working at the hospital and then playing for the patients.
Playing for the patients. So I think your main idea is that he plays for the patients, and that's the pitch that you want to sort of forward in Rodriguez's story, right? So again, another thing that this highlights also is that the same text can yield so many different responses. And each of this response has the capacity to be completely credible, right? It's not, the idea here is not to pitch responses against each other, but to realize that, you know, the same text can be read in many different lights. And it's the point here is that who's doing the reading matters a lot. So while you thought that for you God was the most interesting bit here, for you his playing music was the most interesting bit here, and both of these ideas work. Both of these details, the way you synthesize them, they work. Precisely because you are still using, you're still engaging with the details present in the text. You're still sort of deploying the understanding that you are extracting from the text, and you are making it work in a different light. So again, this is again a very consequential sort of idea when we approach academic writing. All of you will be working with the same texts in your classes, right? All of you will have the same list of assigned readings, and you'll be working with the same texts. But the original or the creative aspect of it is precisely in how you engage with it. What you think is most important, what you think needs to be highlighted, and how you actually make a story, make a narrative out of this most interesting detail. So responses vary, engagement varies, and ideas vary from the same piece of information. Just from this random bit of information, we've already extracted a couple of approaches, we've already extracted a couple of responses, very different from each other, very different in terms of how you've written them, very different in terms of how you've approached them. And yeah, that's the beauty of this process, that doing the same thing but yielding, very different responses, yielding a whole range of responses that can further the conversation.
Just quickly to add, I mean, this
Yeah.
is just